This is Wink Tracks the Tropics, powered by the Weather Authority.
When the tropics are active, timing is everything. The Weather Authority is keeping you prepared.
The latest update did come in from the National Hurricane Center. Helene moving north-northeast. Winds have increased up to 90 miles per hour.
Keeping you informed.
It's now 170 miles northwest of us, and as we had mentioned, this is a major Cat 4 hurricane. This is going to have major landfall implications.
Southwest Florida has seen its fair share of storms in the past few years.
We are leaving immediately after this because it is not safe. You're starting to see some of these debris, sticks flying up and out, and it's one of the reasons why Sanibel is evacuated. It clearly is not safe out here.
But our slice of paradise has bounced back in ways we'd never expect.
It was tough.
We had each other, and that's a good thing.
I wouldn't have made it without Marianne. We're going to make it, though. We're going to make it.
Wink News has been there with you every step of the way, and that won't change.
Yes, we avoid the worst part of the storm, but the wind field's growing and the pressures are deepening. We're going to feel more of that influence on the back end with the surge.
From forecast cones to important safety reminders, the Weather Authority has you covered. You're watching Wink Tracks the Tropics. Hello, and welcome back, everybody, to Wink Tracks the Tropics. I'm Val Simpson with the Wink Weather Authority team. And well, Hurricane Gabrielle is losing intensity in the Atlantic. We are also watching two other areas that are so close to tropical development. And the question is, where are they headed? And will they bring any impacts here to us in Southwest Florida? We're going to answer all that. In addition to that, we also have Science in 60 Seconds with Nikki, and we also have a spotlight for our weather watchers. We're going to highlight one of our very special weather watchers and see what Josh has for us today. And, you know, I want to remind you all that this is an interactive platform. That means that we can actually take your questions, your comments. We want to know where you're watching us from. We want you to be a part of this streaming show, and we're going to be doing that by connecting with you through our YouTube page. So go onto our YouTube page if you're watching us from our website at wink.com, at winknews.com, or if you're watching us from Facebook, I invite you to switch on over to YouTube to leave us your questions, comments, concerns, anything, a shout out. We're here for it. And when I say we, I mean our very talented panel of meteorologists. What's up, guys? How's everyone doing today?
Doing great.
Good morning.
Everybody ready to discuss what's going on right now in the tropics?
Always, Val.
Busy times, busy times.
Very good. I know this is a very busy time. You're absolutely right, Josh. And without any further ado, let's get right into it. I'm going to give you a quick rundown of what we have here. I mentioned earlier that Gabrielle is losing intensity. Once, when it hit its peak, it was a Category 4 hurricane with 140 mile per hour winds. Now, a Category 2 with 110 mile per hour winds. The other two red areas that you're seeing at the bottom, those are the two other areas, invests, that we're looking and that we're tracking. And we will be doing so in the next few days and into the week. We have Invest 93L, and which has a 90% chance of development, and then Invest 94L, which has an 80% chance. Very close. This is what we expect in the next week or so. But let's get right into it. And just to get it out of the way, we are going to talk a little bit about Gabrielle and what it's doing. Here's Gabrielle now. I told you about the winds, the max sustained winds, and it's moving northeast at 25 miles per hour. It will continue to move in that direction. Tomorrow, it's forecasted to be a Cat 1 hurricane, again, losing that intensity, becoming a low as we move into the weekend. Could potentially bring some moisture and rain for Portugal and Spain, so that is that for them. Now, moving along, let's talk about what is going on in terms of these invest areas. Right here is the satellite wide view, and you can see Gabrielle right up at the top, and then also the other two areas that we're watching, Invest 94L and Invest 93L as well. And let's take a closer look at what is happening. Well, 93L is kind of there, just not really doing much. Better structure, perhaps, in comparison. But then we have 94L, which is very close to Puerto Rico, Haiti, Dominican Republic, bringing in showers and thunderstorms for these areas, probably also winds as well. So these areas want to be informed about what's going on with this situation, because it could impact them. Getting a lot of rain could also sometimes mean flash flooding, et cetera, et cetera. But let's talk about the situation of these two invests, because they're still trying to fight some of this dry air that we're seeing, a lot to do with Saharan dust. And this is where we're at for tomorrow. This is what it would look like. But as we move closer to the weekend, notice how we get away from a lot of this drier air. And they start forming just a little bit more. We start seeing more rotation, more defined rotation. There's a more defined center. This would be around Friday afternoon. That's mostly also what we're seeing with Invest 93L. Now notice also 94L as it gets closer to the state of Florida. By Sunday, it looks like it's having we're seeing more rotation. It seems like it's coming together. And this, by Sunday, notice how it's very light dry air at that, or dust, I should say. And then also another factor that we always need to play into is the wind shear. Notice how right now, or by Friday, I should say, I want to point that out, we're seeing a lower shear, what's represented in yellow or the lighter tones of orange. But look at what happens as we move in and we get closer to the weekend. I want you to keep a really close eye here on what is 94L, which is the circle that is the closest to Florida. Notice how it's going to be interacting with some red areas, which represents higher wind shear. Well, that is associated with a front that's going to be pushing down. Now, it is forecasting, we are forecasting that once this front pushes down, it could really help with that steering, and it could really keep these systems, both systems, away from our coast. And I'm talking about Florida particularly. It could have perhaps some indirect impacts for the Carolinas. That is what we are seeing, especially when it comes to the ensembles, which I am going to show you in just a little bit. But obviously, when it comes to timing of this front, it all really comes down to that, right? So when we talk about tropical steering, it's really about the timing, it's the strength of these possible systems, the placement. These are going to be key. And I want to remind you all that these systems have not yet actually formed. And because of that, we don't necessarily know exactly where is going to be headed. We have an idea based on calculations, but we're not necessarily sure. They haven't yet formed. We don't have a cone yet from the National Hurricane Center. So what I promised is due. Here are the European ensembles. These are also known as the spaghetti models. And as you can see, you can take a look where 93L is located. It seems to have that recurve that we've been seeing a lot during this hurricane season. And then when we think about, or when we talk about and we look onto 94L, which would be the area that is closer to the state of Florida, notice how some of those spaghetti models are hinting, they're kind of trending that they might head into that direction. Again, all bets are on that front that could potentially steer it away from the southeast United States coast. And then I also want to share with you, with that being said, the GFS, this is the American Spaghetti Models Ensemble, so that you can get an idea and kind of compare that. It almost seems like it's definitely much further away from the coast. And also, it's not, doesn't look like it's headed in that direction. I don't see that consensus there with these ensembles. But then again, like I said, we got to continue watching. These systems haven't yet formed, but very different from one model to the other. So very likely that we could potentially have Umberto and Imelda here with us in the next few days. So we have to continue watching for that. But as of right now, I guess that a lot of the questions that we've been seeing online specifically is that we have two storms that are very close, or two potential areas that are very close to each other, that are very close to even developing into tropical depressions together almost at the same time, it seems like. Could there be a potential, and I want to bring you guys all in for this, and you tell me what your thoughts are. Could there be a potential that they can merge together and we could have what could be called a super hurricane? Zach?
Oh gosh, yeah, I don't see that, only because that doesn't happen typically in terms of Trying to think of when
It's
you said super
ridiculous.
hurricane, that got a little scary there for a second.
It would-
Yeah, the European is most likely the solution that's coming true. The reason why is because it's been the most consistent model so far. The National Hurricane Center definitely honing in on the European model, two potential systems developing nearby each other. The GFS has been an outlier. I'm saying the GFS is an outlier in terms of what's going on. I know we just had that screen go black there for a second. But in terms of the GFS being an outlier in and of itself, it wants to keep 94L, the one closest to Florida, weak. And if they both stay weak, we might be able to see some convergence of the lows coming together. It wouldn't become a super hurricane whatsoever there. Just want to let our viewers know who are watching real quick. The biggest thing is the European model is most likely the one that could be coming true, because if we have two defined centers of circulation, two defined areas of low pressure, they'll more than likely circle each other. They'll be like different magnetic poles where you can't have the magnet, no matter how far these magnets get close to each other, they can't get close together. They have to push away. We call it the Fujiwara effect. Hard to say, but always an effect where you can't have the lows just merge together and develop. So, based on my experience of seeing this, based on the experience of understanding how the physics works within these models, as well as within the dynamics of low pressures in general, I don't see them coming together. I see both of them individually developing, staying far apart, and if they do try and come together, they're going to start to encircle one another, which would have more impacts for the Carolinas. And I'll let the others weigh in as well. But yeah, super hurricane. Yeah, I don't think so.
Not a thing.
Well, you know what? Going back to the Fujiwara effect, like Zach was saying, it's never a super hurricane. It's just the stronger storm absorbs basically the weaker one.
Yeah.
And it's a bit more common than you think. I was actually trying to do some research before this to see how often this happens. We had this happen in 2021 back in the Indian Ocean, 2023 in the Pacific. So it's not something that's very uncommon. It doesn't create super hurricanes. You just see basically that merging taking place, that stronger storm, that stronger circulation overpowering the other one.
Right. Yeah, no, absolutely. I guess that it's ridiculous to think of a superstorm. That's not something that exists. But yes, definitely that dance, that Fujiwara dance that you guys are talking about could likely be something that we could potentially see. Now, Josh, they're very close, both of them, to become a tropical depression. Which one do you think we will see development with first?
So it looks like Invest 93L, that's the one that is farther to the east, which is farther away from us. That one looks to be a little bit better put together as of now. It's got ripe conditions to develop, so I would not be surprised if we see that one get designated as a tropical depression or even a tropical storm here very shortly, perhaps by the end of this week. Even better chances as we head towards this weekend. Now, the one out ahead of it, that's Invest 94L, the one that we'll be watching a little bit closer. Right now, it's going to be dealing with a little bit of land interaction as it is around some of those eastern Caribbean islands, and that's why it has a slightly lower chance of development over the next 7 days. But you see, nonetheless, they're both high chances. They're both likely to become organized tropical systems. But in terms of which one is likely going to do it first, it would be Invest 93L. And again, that next name on the list would be Umberto. And based on some of the model trends we've seen, there's a good chance that it could get that name.
I agree with Josh, too. I think 94L is going to be slower to develop. Right now on satellite imagery, it is the weaker of the two areas. 93L is developing a little bit quicker. We are seeing more organization. The organization is already there. We're just waiting for it to develop that closed surface area of low circulation, the surface area of low pressure, and then we should see at least a depression out of it. Models kind of have that happening by at least tomorrow, if not tomorrow by lunchtime, possibly Thursday in the evening hours. But I think 93L, first to develop, first to become our next tropical storm, most likely will be named Umberto because that's the next name on the list. And some models kind of keeping 94L on the weaker side. That's the one that's closer to the United States, closer to Florida. But we can actually see some models develop this into not only a tropical depression, but possibly even tropical storm Imelda. So that's something of concern. And I think more of the model plots that you showed a second ago actually have it heading closer to, if not on shore of, South and North Carolina. I know you mentioned some indirect impacts. There is a possibility that South and North Carolina get direct impacts from a potentially landfalling tropical storm if that holds together and if that trough kind of moves a little bit slower across the eastern coast. So I think that possibility is definitely still there, as we are seeing more of those model plots have it either stalling just south of what would be Charleston, south of Wilmington, North Carolina, but a lot of them actually have it moving just onshore, if not skirting the Outer Banks, and then it gets torn apart by wind shear, which would arrive along a trough of low pressure. So I kind of agree with Josh on the development of the one farther in the Atlantic first, followed by the one closer to the United States, but there still could be some direct impacts of a tropical system across the southeast United States as we head towards, I would say, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday next week.
Guys, I'm going to interrupt the conversation because we have a question coming in on YouTube. This is from Tim. He's saying that, so does it get a new name if it takes over the other one? What happens in that event if a stronger storm would absorb the weaker storm?
Nikki, I'll let you speak on that too, because I have a follow-up question. In your research that you mentioned, you said usually it's the weaker low that can get absorbed, which means it really wouldn't be strong enough to get a name. So I don't think we've ever had two developed areas of low pressure unless they were individually developed. Then one weakens and gets absorbed by the other. I think we had that back in 2021 in the Atlantic, if I recall. But Nikki, do you have any insight on that too?
Yeah, so they actually have had names with what I've looked back at in the Indian Ocean. Let me look here. In April 2021, we had tropical cyclone, excuse my pronunciation, Serhoa, and tropical cyclone Odette. And Odette was a stronger system, so it absorbed that first storm, but it kept the name Odette. So the stronger storm, that's the name that it does keep. It's something really interesting, and I'm actually surprised at how, I wouldn't say common, but how many times it has happened in the past. But it's definitely something I want to dig a little deeper in, Zach, to talk about, like you were saying, like, how is it that the system's strong enough to have a name, but it could be still absorbed?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing too is I know they start to encircle each other first, and they have to start spinning around each other to finally start getting pulled into it.
It's a little dance.
Yeah, so it has to start dancing first to get that attraction to try and bring one in and fully absorb it. It's not just a meshing of ketchup and mustard and just meshing it together, seeing what happens. I think there is that dance that begins where one begins to slowly absorb. I'm sure it takes a couple days too, Nikki. If you recall that, I think I remember seeing that if it does happen, it's not simultaneous. It takes some time to let that even develop, if it were even to happen whatsoever.
Yeah, it takes a bit of time, like you said. And what I'm assuming, talking about that dance, maybe the stronger storm is basically taking the energy source, the warm water from that weaker system, and then just allowing for it to completely, weaken for it to be absorbed. That's my guess on how this would take place. But again, it's something I'm definitely interested in diving deeper into, because it's something we don't talk about very often.
And it might be something we don't even see at all, which is definitely a possibility with these two. We might not see that in what we've been speaking about the last 5 minutes. It might not actually be a thing. Both may develop and both may stay far enough away that we will see. I think it's better. I think the better idea is that 94L, if it develops tropically, moves near, if not on shore of the Carolinas, would get absorbed by the upper level area of low pressure and the cold front there before it would get absorbed into what 93L could become.
I guess that it's important to repeat then that, since these systems haven't yet formed, that we kind of have an idea, but, confidence-wise, I think will be greater once they do form, and we'll continue to be able to forecast better and with a higher probability of where it's headed and the impacts that it's going to have. Also, I want to make sure that we're clear that, will we see any impacts here in Southwest Florida? Who wants to take that?
Yeah, I can take that. Based on what we're currently seeing on these models, the answer is going to be no. Now, in fact, we're almost going to get the opposite, because we've mentioned that there is a front on the way. Behind that front, there is going to be drier air. So what we have happening is Invest 94L, that's the one that's a little bit closer to us, that's actually going to help drag that front maybe a little bit further south And behind that front, we get the drier air. So if you're talking about impacting us, no direct impacts, but it is going to help filter in some slightly drier air that will in turn will likely lower our rain chances later on this weekend into early next week. But in terms of direct impacts from a tropical system, the answer for Southwest Florida is no.
Josh, you just made my day. I love hearing that. So drier conditions for the weekend. If you're local here in Southwest Florida, make sure you make plans for outdoor activities. It sounds like it's going to be nice. Yeah. Temperature-wise, guys, where are we at?
Oh, right now, I think we're still in the 70s, heading to the 80s here soon, if not the 80s already. In terms of the forecast for the next couple of days, highs back to low 90s, so not too bad out there. Hopefully we can get that dry air. I think if 94L gets a little bit stronger, it could be bad for parts of the Carolinas and not staying offshore the United States, but that would bring us better conditions with even lower humidity next week. I know that's something we're all looking at. It's kind of that difference of Irma versus Ian, where Irma was early September. We had a very strong storm system. It was very hot and humid after Irma because it was so early in the year. Versus after Ian, strong systems pull in so much dry air, low humidity that it was dramatically cooler the days that followed Ian. So even though this is not going to have the strength of those hurricanes whatsoever, the systems respond the same, where because it's late September, early October, we actually might be able to tap into some more of that lower humidity, if not even slightly cooler morning temperatures as we head towards Monday and Tuesday next week. So it's something to look forward to, I think, for all of us here as an only impact of what could be developing tropically to our east.
Very good, very good. We are taking questions and comments on our YouTube page. So if you are watching, let us know where you're watching from. We'll give you a shout out. We have Tim right now that's online. There's a couple of people that were watching, and we're live. So leave us your questions and your comments whenever you would like, and we'll read them and share them here with you. Okay, one more question. For the folks in Carolinas, what is the one thing that they need to look to? What is that one thing that they're going to need to, that factor that they need to pay attention to in the next coming days?
I mean, if anyone's watching us and you're up in the Carolinas, definitely tune to your most local TV station if you can, whether you're in Charleston, Savannah, all the way through Columbia, South Carolina. I know the Wilmington market, including not only parts of Greenville, North Carolina on the eastern side, Raleigh, of course, in the central part of the state. Just tuning to a local station in that area that will provide all of that updated information if exact impacts are coming towards the coast of the Carolinas. In terms of the forecast by itself, what do individuals have to pay attention to? Just exactly how it develops. I think if it develops as we head towards the weekend, Friday and Saturday, we might get a cone on this if it does develop into either a potential tropical system, because again, this year, the National Hurricane Center, we haven't talked about this yet so far, but this year the National Hurricane Center is giving a potential tropical system, potential tropical cyclone updates, 72 hours, one additional day before any development or any impact for land. So that could be something we see with 94L, maybe seeing it as a tropical depression at first, but if that does develop, and guys, you can fill me in on this too, we should at least have a cone and all the information coming from the sources as well as local TV stations in that area. And of course, if it's next week, we'll be covering it, of course, right here at 11 on Monday.
Yeah, we haven't had to deal with a lot of those potential tropical systems this year. I know they can sometimes be confusing because you're like, well, is it a tropical system or is it not? Why is there a cone if it isn't? And again, they issue those just to give folks that are in the path, that are perhaps, in the path of this system, even though it's not a system yet, it's forecast to become one. So they put out that forecast cone. And I was thinking to myself earlier this morning, that's absolutely something we could see happen here over the next couple of days with Invest 94L.
Especially because it's going from 48 hours in advance of landfall and development to now 72.
Yeah,
so that extra whole day. Case in point, for anyone who's wondering what that even means, Helene did that last year. Helene on this date almost a year ago was potential tropical cyclone number 9. It developed yesterday a year ago as that potential tropical system. So if we had one more day, we actually would have had that cone, that information a day before, and we could have had one additional day of some possible leeway when it came to Helene a year ago. So that was a good change, I think, from the National Hurricane Center for this updated season.
So when it comes to forecasting for this hurricane season, we are below where we should be because usually we tend to see by this time generally, historically, we tend to see more activity. Is this an indicator of what the rest of the season is going to be like? Guys, what do you
I think regardless of numbers, that almost is irrelevant. Honestly, we could see more, we could see less. I think the Caribbean will wake up eventually because we are heading towards a low-end La Nina as we head towards October into early November. So that's something we have to watch. In terms of the numbers, you know, I know a lot of our viewers and listeners say the numbers are fine. We like looking at the numbers. Who cares if it's above season? Who cares if it's below season? I agree with that sometimes because all we care about is one storm going to pop up that's going to impact us. Right now, there are no storms popping up that are going to impact us here in Southwest Florida. I'll continue saying that until we see otherwise, but thankfully right now, you know, it still could be active. You know, we always know the Caribbean does wake back up, but currently all is good to go, and I would be just fine if nothing decided to develop the rest of the year.
Call it a day.
Let me tell you something. You just answered Tim's question. You got ahead of it. This is how good Zach is, you guys. Tim was asking, is there anything else that is brewing up right now? So there's your question, answered Tim. So
You're welcome,
yeah,
Tim. There you go. Yeah, nothing of any concern for us. Nothing in the Caribbean. Only model that wants to put some stuff out there is sometimes the GFS. Don't worry about it. It's the GFS. It takes some time before it even gets going. And as we saw, we'll be able to talk about how the GFS did next week. The GFS has only one system developing, has it absorbing together. We could answer that question on Monday and Tuesday and go, how did the GFS do? And I'm pretty sure we'll sit here and say, not too great.
I love that. You already gave us our topic for Monday. So there you have it. You want to tune in Monday. You need to tune in Monday through Friday because we're going to keep you up to date with everything that's going on in the tropics. Before we leave, I'm running out of time. I do want to do the Weather Watcher Spotlight. So why don't we go ahead and do that? Josh, I'm going to punch here these awesome pictures that we got from our awesome weather watchers. So take it away.
Yeah, absolutely, Val. So something interesting, at 7:30 a.m. this morning, there was a SpaceX launch in Cape Canaveral, and believe it or not, you could see it all the way from our Southwest Florida skies. Luckily, today we finally had a little bit more sunshine in the morning compared to the past couple of days. So here's a picture of the trail of that. This one coming from Tim, who's asking the questions right now. Always a great weather watcher. He sent us that picture earlier this morning. We saw several more. I've got another picture to show you here. This one coming to us from another one of our weather watchers, Eugene. You can see it off in the distance there in between those palm trees. And again, just something pretty cool that you can see something hundreds of miles away if you look off towards the east-northeast. It's something to keep in mind as they continue to do those rocket launches. It's always cool if you can get out there, snap a picture or video. But we appreciate our weather watchers for sending in those pictures earlier this morning.
That's right, and I want to remind everybody, if you haven't already, you can become a weather watcher too. Just go to our website, winknews.com. You'll find the link there. You can sign up. We'll have you sign a release for all your pictures and videos so that we can share them and publish them and air them both on our TV newscast and also here on our streaming show. And it also gives you access to a very exclusive private group on Facebook where we make sure that no bots are allowed. So make sure to become a weather watcher by joining us and clicking on that link. Guys, this was an awesome, super packed, informational episode. I want to thank you all for your time. And I also want to thank everybody that tuned in today. We had a great show. And remember that you can always leave us your questions and your comments. We look forward to your comments. We look forward to hearing where you are watching us from. I know that it could be local, but sometimes it could also be people from the Carolinas who are looking for information. So definitely leave us your comments next time that you tune in. Guys, bye guys.